Hey, welcome to the anime universe. Today, I want to introduce you to a teenager who has supreme power, but he doesn't like his power and always wants to hide it, so he is often looked down upon by others. Until one day when his younger brother gets picked on, he finally decides to stop hiding his strength and take revenge on those who despise him. This teenager is the male protagonist of Mob Psycho 100. Mob. The story begins in a world where exist spirits. There are some people working in exorcism. Arataka is one of them, claiming himself to be an esper, but in fact, he is a top scammer without any psychic power at all. One day, a couple asks him to expel the evil spirit. After negotiating the fee, they take Arataka to the haunted building. It is said that a man died here after he was scared by a cockroach and jumped to hit the ceiling, turning to be an evil spirit. Just then, the spirit suddenly shows up. Arataka takes out his secret weapon, the salts, to attack it, but unfortunately, it is no use at all. Arataka then leisurely takes out his phone and calls his disciple, Shigeo, who is nicknamed Mob because he is often neglected, but he is a real esper with powerful strength, eliminating the spirit with just a raise of his hand. Even so, he still has something unable to complete as an esper. For example, he is bad at maths and sports. What he likes to do most is to peep at his favorite girl, Tsubomi. One day after school, Arakata expels the spirit in a tunnel with Mob. Mob informs him that there are really strong spirits inside the tunnel, but he is not afraid at all with Mob beside him. When Mob is eliminating the nearby spirits, Arakata is acting to lead the way, but he hits a strong spirit accidentally. Arakata's punches are totally ineffective for the spirit. Luckily, Mob is powerful enough to beat the spirit to its original form. Facing the stronger spirits, Mob still defeats them easily, though expelling the spirits everywhere with his master, Arakata. Mob is actually a little boy at heart. He recalls showing his psychic power to Tsubomi when he played with her at a young age, but as they grew up, Tsubomi got bored with Mob's performance. She starts to prefer boys who can play sports, so Mob decides to join the Body Improvement Club, hoping to become a muscular man and win Tsubomi's heart. But Mob is so physically poor that he already gets exhausted after running less than 200 meters. At this moment, the president of the Telepathy Club gets so excited as she notices that Mob has psychic power, asking Mob to join her club. In the beginning, she founded this strange club because she wants to explore the mysteries of the universe and communicate with aliens. Mob with psychic power is the perfect member for the Telepathy Club, but now Mob just wants to build muscles and win the heart of Tsubomi. Then, the president reminds Mob that he should read the girl's mind by telepathy and knows exactly what she wants. After school, thinking of what the president said just now, Mob suddenly meets a strange woman wearing the smile mask, who can see Mob has got trouble. She then takes Mob to a strange organization, named LOL, with an excuse for solving his problem. All the members here wear smile masks. As the leader, Dimple gets on the platform. Everyone removes the mask and bursts out laughing in an instant. Meanwhile, Mob is pushed to the platform with a middle-aged man and his classmate, Ichi. Strangely, the lackluster middle-aged man also bursts out laughing after removing his mask. As a member of the news club, Ichi heard that there is a cult here, intending to scout for it. However, she also bursts out laughing uncontrollably after removing her mask. Only Mob doesn't laugh when he takes off his mask. Dimple asks Mob to look around, telling him that he will look odd if he doesn't laugh, which reminds Mob of his bad memory at a young age. At that time, Mob was playing with his classmates. All of his friends were laughing when Mob kept expressionless, making Mob out of kilter with others. Therefore, Mob lost his playmates gradually. Dimple tries everything he can to make Mob laugh, but he still fails. He taunts Mob about his lack of feelings, saying that Mob can never be with his beloved girl, which angers Mob. He knows Dimple is not a human but an evil spirit. After being revealed, Dimple crushes down Mob with his power. Mob remembers that he accidentally injured people around him with his psychic power when he was a child, so he has always restrained his power. But Dimple's provocation causes the outburst of his negative emotions, and his anger reaches 100%. With his body emitting the gold light, he seems to become a Super Saiyan. Mob has awakened, instantly defeating Dimple. Mob tells what happened today to his master, Arakata. Arakata then comforts him that he has saved many people, turning Mob's anger to zero. Afterwards, Mob sees a green spirit, which turns out to be Dimple. He hates to be a spirit forever, so he founds a cult with the intention of becoming a god. He invites Mob, who has strong psychic power, to be at the top of the world together. Mob rejects it and intends to kill Dimple, but Dimple saves his own life by promising not to be evil. Mob takes Dimple to Arakata, but Arakata can't see Dimple at all. He lies that Dimple is too weak to be seen, which makes Mob completely trust Dimple and allow Dimple to stay with him. Knowing that Arakata is just a liar without psychic power, Dimple doesn't reveal it because his real purpose is to steal Mob's body and use it to gain strong power. There is a student named Tenga who wants to be the strongest hooligan nearby. However, he is easily defeated by a blonde-haired boy named Taruki when attacking the first school, the Black Vinegar Middle School. Tenga can't bear it, asking the members of the Body Improvement Club to fight for him, but it is rejected by the just president. Tenga coincidentally sees Mob with a weak look, coming up with a bad idea. Tenga writes a fake love letter to Mob, asking him to meet in the park. Though Dimple points out it is fake, Mob goes to the park anyway to see what's gonna happen. Tenga then sends a challenge to the hooligans of the Black Vinegar Middle School, asking them to fight in the park. Thinking that Mob is coming for the fight, the Black Vinegar Middle School students kidnap Mob and take him hostage. Hearing that Mob is kidnapped, the members of the Body Improvement Club head to the Black Vinegar Middle School to save Mob, which is exactly Tenga's plan that the Body Improvement Club will defeat the Black Vinegar Middle School. In the beginning, everything goes smoothly. The Body Improvement Club is so strong that they easily defeat the hooligans of the Black Vinegar Middle School. But as Taruki comes, he easily turns the table and stuns the members of the Body Improvement Club. Mob knows that Taruki has psychic power. After he unties the rope on his body, he advises Taruki not to take the advantage of his psychic power to bully ordinary people. Finding that there is someone else owning psychic power, Taruki wants to fight Mob, but his attacks are ineffective for Mob. Mob remembers Arataka taught him there is no difference between those who have psychic power and those who run fast or sing well. So don't deal with ordinary people with psychic power out of a sense of superiority, and don't make the psychic power become a weapon to hurt others. But Taruki has exactly the opposite thinking. He thinks he is blessed to have psychic power, thus looking down upon other people. He attacks more fiercely, hitting Mob to the ground. Seeing that Mob still doesn't use his psychic power, Dimple steps out but gets killed by Taruki in one shot, which makes Mob's anger reaches 50%. But Mob still patiently persuades Taruki not to use psychic power. Taruki doesn't listen to him at all, attacking Mob with knives. Mob has to counterattack and accidentally shaves Taruki bald. Mob keeps persuading Taruki. He knows that Taruki being hostile to him is out of his lack of confidence, just like Mob himself, worrying about being an ordinary person if losing psychic power. Taruki completely collapses. He chokes Mob and repeats that he is an excellent human, trying to contradict what Mob said. At this moment, Mob recalls the time when he and his little brother were robbed. He couldn't help using his psychic power, injuring his dear brother by mistake. He felt so guilty, and after that, he swears that he will never use psychic power on an ordinary person. Seeing that Mob would rather get choked than use psychic power, Taruki feels upset. At this moment, there is light shining behind Taruki. It turns out that Mob awakens his powerful force, hitting Taruki to the sky in an instant and even shattering his clothes. Taruki then realizes in the air that he is just an ordinary person. When Mob regains his consciousness, he cries because he hurt someone with his psychic power again. Mob tells his experience to Arataka. Arataka consoles him that he has also helped many people with psychic power, so don't always think in a negative way, which makes Mob feel a little relieved. Soon, the destruction of the Black Vinegar Middle School caused by Mob is in the news. After seeing the news, Mob's brother, Ritsu, takes on a complex look. Ritsu is an excellent student as well as a member of the student council. Mob envies his brother, but Ritsu is envious of his brother's psychic power, dreaming of awakening his own psychic power one day. After school, a man named Keiji, claiming himself to be a member of the Awakening Lab, comes to Ritsu. He mistakes Ritsu as Mob, inviting him to strengthen his psychic power in the lab. With the intention of having psychic power, Ritsu decides to scout the lab, which is full of various instruments and scientific officers wearing uniforms, as well as another 5 espers who got invited but have weak psychic power. Keiji says he is from a wealthy family, and his target is to learn the secret of psychic power, thus he can get psychic power as well. Afterwards, when Ritsu comes to school, the president of the student council asks him to help clean up the hooligans of the school by framing them for stealing girls' items, which makes Ritsu so uncomfortable. At night, Ritsu comes to the Awakening Lab. Keiji asks him to bend the spoon with his psychic power. Since he actually doesn't have psychic power, Ritsu angrily drops the spoon and leaves. Just then, Keiji notices the spoon is already bent. When he gets home, Ritsu happens to see Dimple coming back alive. Dimple becomes weaker after being defeated by Taruki, and he can't even enter the house now. As Dimple follows Ritsu in, he tells Ritsu if Ritsu can see him, it means that Ritsu has awakened his psychic power. Dimple asks Ritsu to prepare many spoons and try bending them with his psychic power. Finding that he can't make it, Ritsu gets a little disappointed. However, he soon notices that all the spoons on the table were already bent. Ritsu finally believes it. Dimple then lies to Ritsu that if he allows Dimple to possess his body, he can better awaken his psychic power. However, Ritsu is so powerful that Dimple can't control Ritsu's body. Instead, he can only help Ritsu unleash stronger power. Dimple's words make Ritsu realize that he awakened his psychic power by doing bad things. If he wants to gain stronger power, he must keep doing evil things. So he keeps being bad, thus getting stronger power. because the student council did many bad things. Some students come to take revenge on Ritsu. However, they all get beaten up by Ritsu's psychic power, which is seen by Teruki. Teruki has completely changed since he was defeated by Mob. Just like Mob, he tries to convince Ritsu not to hurt ordinary people with psychic power. Ritsu is not listening to it but intending to fight with Teruki. Teruki easily overpowers him. Though not reconciled, Ritsu quickly runs away as Dimple suggests. When Ritsu is back to school, the hooligans from other schools come to Ritsu's school to pick a fight. It turns out that Mob was in a white t-shirt when he defeated Teruki at Black Vinegar Middle School last time. It is then rumored that whoever defeats the white tea poison can become the strongest at school. As a result, they are all defeated by Ritsu's psychic power. After that, more hooligans come to challenge Ritsu. They believe Ritsu is the white tea poison, and if they can beat Ritsu, they will become the strongest one. Teruki happens to see it and hears that Ritsu disguises himself as Mob, deciding to solve the problem with Mob. When Mob arrives, Ritsu already defeats all the hooligans. Mob asks him what he is doing here while Ritsu just replies coldly that he also has psychic power. Noticing Mob's coming, Dimple quickly leaves Ritsu's body. Instead of retreating, Ritsu attacks his brother Mob. However, Mob doesn't get upset. Instead, he happily congratulates Ritsu for gaining psychic power. When they were young, Ritsu cried because he didn't have it. But for Ritsu, he never dares to anger Mob since he was a kid because his brother has psychic power, and they would never argue. Now he thinks he finally has the strength to protect himself. So their brotherhood is over. He asks his brother to duel with him, but Mob just says, "I'm Ritsu's brother," and then goes around Ritsu and apologizes to the hooligans that Ritsu beat up. The hooligans haven't been clear about their situation, asking Mob to kneel down to apologize. Unexpectedly, Mob really gets down, saying that he doesn't want to see anyone get hurt or hurt others. When the situation is deadlocked, a stranger jumps off the roof and hits Ritsu, who can't even strike back. He then intends to take Ritsu away. Mob tries to stop him but gets hit to the ground. He walks to the crowd, asking all the hooligans to kneel down, and they all follow his words. Seeing his brother in danger, Mob tries to stop him with his psychic power, but he still gets defeated and seriously injured. Though Ritsu just said he wants to break off with Mob, now he can't bear to see his brother being hit. Knowing that the stranger's target is Ritsu himself, he begs the stranger to let his brother go, saying that he is willing to be taken away. But the stranger just punches Ritsu, which instantly increases Mob's anger to 100%. Soon, the stranger gets punched swollen by Mob's strong power. During the fight, Mob's coat is broken, and his white t-shirt is exposed. The hooligans then realize Mob is exactly the white tea poison. When everyone thinks Mob is about to win, the stranger uses a trick, spraying a red spray that can make espers temporarily lose their psychic power. The stranger then intends to kill all the hooligans here, but Mob stands up again. Seeing this, the stranger hurriedly runs away with Ritsu, but in fact, at this moment, Mob has fallen into a coma, and is then taken away by Teruki. When Mob wakes up, Teruki tells him that the one who took Ritsu is from an organization called Claw, which specializes in scouring around for espers, and their goal is to rule the world. Teruki knows this because he was once targeted as well, but what he wonders is how this organization knows about Ritsu's existence. Just then, Dimple reveals that it is probably the Awakening Lab Ritsu visited before that leaked the information. When they arrive at the Awakening Lab, it has been destroyed. They find Keiji here, who has fallen into unconsciousness. They then know from Keiji that the Claw intends to capture Mob, but they took Ritsu away by mistake because of the wrong information from the Awakening Lab. After hearing the stranger's experience, the cadre of the Claw's 7th Division knows there is a stronger Esper, deciding to capture Mob in person. However, he is easily overpowered by Mob and Teruki. Based on the scars on his face, Teruki confirms that the man is an important member of the Claw, as these scars were left after a failed challenge to the Claw's boss. Mob forces the cadre to take them to the Claw's base. When the cadre finds an opportunity to run away, he is instantly knocked down by Mob. Then, Dimple possesses a security guard, and they sneak into the base together. Mob happens to meet the stranger who took Ritsu away, and he still wants to fight with Mob. Eventually, Mob defeats the stranger with just one shot, because he is anxious to rescue his brother and does not want to waste time. At this moment, Ritsu's intelligence works. He takes out a spoon hidden on him, and with the help of other espers kidnapped here, he unlocks the cage successfully. However, it is noticed by the 3 members of the Claw. At the critical moment, Ritsu defeats them with his psychic power. On his way to escape from the base, Ritsu encounters a teenager in a green shirt named Sho. He has no scars on his face and seems not to be a cadre of the Claw, but he has great fighting power. Ritsu decides to stall this teenager alone. Seeing his brother fall, Mob's anger instantly increases. At this point, another cadre cadre who is good at brainwashing appears and tries to brainwash Mob with his psychic power, but turns to arouse Mob's negative emotions instead. Mob's psychic power explodes uncontrollably and instantly defeats the cadre, but Mob also falls into a coma and gets captured. Mob's master, Arataka, finds Mob has lost contact recently, so he locates the Claw's base according to the GPS of Mob's cell phone. As a top liar, he does not panic at all when he sees many guards at the entrance of the base, calmly saying that he comes to look for his own men, who is actually Mob. But the men of the Claw mistake Arataka as the boss of the Claw and treat him very respectfully. When they bring Arataka into the base, they meet the kids who ran away with Ritsu before. As they all mistake Arataka as the boss, they just watch the kids escape from the base after Arataka suggests not doing anything to the children. At this moment, Mob wakes up. When Ritsu is just about to apologize, Mob hugs Ritsu and says, "I'm glad you're fine." Teruki, who is also captured, tells the brothers that they are trapped in a room where they cannot use their psychic power. However, Mob says it doesn't matter because his brother Ritsu is different from him. He only knows how to use psychic power, but Ritsu is very smart and can always solve problems. Hearing his brother's words, Ritsu can't help crying. The guards lead Arataka to where Mob is. When Mob is calling Arataka his master, everyone is shocked. Arataka doesn't know what's going on yet until they explain it to him. And then Arataka decides to take advantage of his mistaken identity to take Mob out of the base. But on their way, they meet the executives of the Claw. Just then they can learn of Arataka's fake identity. When Arataka runs away with others, the superior of the Claw blocks their way with the psychic power, trying to crush them by increasing the pressure in the air. Luckily, Arataka kicks away the superior and saves Mob. Arataka tries to persuade them to stop, but unfortunately, his verbal trick doesn't work on these brainwashed enemies and they directly start fighting. Seeing Ritsu gets injured and his companions gradually fall to a disadvantage, Mob's anger is increasing. When he can't control his power and is about to unleash an explosion with 100% anger, Arataka stops him by slapping his face. He knows if Mob is not willing to fight, it will only make him suffer more. Why not just run away? Suddenly, a memory flashes through Mob's mind. As a child, Mob coincidentally saw the sign of Arataka's exorcism office, and Mob innocently thought that Arataka was also an esper like him. Mob always felt like a weirdo since he couldn't control his psychic power, so he asked Arataka for advice on what to do. Arataka lied he also had the same trouble when he was young, but he later figured out that people with psychic power are just like those who excel in studies or sports, and it is just one of their characteristics and needs to be faced correctly. Arataka was pleased after Mob showed his psychic power, saying that he would teach Mob how to use his psychic power correctly. The memory ends here. Just as Mob is coming to his senses, the executive slashes Arataka down from behind. But just then, Arataka unexpectedly stands up. It turns out that Mob transfers his psychic power to Arataka. Though Arataka told Mob to run away if he is unwilling to fight, Mob doesn't want to just avoid the difficulty. The best way to solve it now is to give his power to Arataka and let him fight. The executives of the Claw are all defeated by Arataka. Arataka then starts his lessons again. In his opinion, espers and ordinary people are the same. What he hates most is espers fighting against ordinary people with psychic power. If the executives claim themselves to be the chosen ones, why they can't even beat him, who claims to be immortal, which completely shocks the executives, and they begin to reflect on what they did. Only the chief executive, who was defeated just now, persists in stating that he deserves preferential treatment because he possesses psychic power, and he intends to start another fight. At the critical moment, Sho appears and kills the leader of the division in one move, announcing that the 7th division of the Claw is disbanded. It turns out that Sho is the son of the Claw's boss, and he comes to see if he can train some capable men. In his opinion, there is no one useful, but Sho seems to be interested in Ritsu. After this fight, they return to their peaceful lives. Ritsu apologizes to the hooligans he set up before. Teruki and Keiji reform the Awakening Lab, which they intend to use to fight the Hidden Claw. Arataka continues to take Mob to exorcise spirits around the world, but what they do not know is that the boss of the Claw has quietly returned to Japan. A new crisis is about to break out. When exorcising spirits, Mob meets the ghosts of a family of 3 who died in an accident. They just want to stay in their destroyed home in peace for a while with no intention to hurt humans, which makes Mob gradually understand that not all ghosts in the world are evil. There are also some kinds of ghosts that do not harm people, so he cannot expel them casually. Although most tasks of expelling spirits are not difficult for Mob, there are exceptions. When he follows his master, Arataka, to expel spirits in a rich family, he meets the strongest evil spirit known in history, Keiji, who was once also an esper helping people expel spirits. But as his mother was seriously ill, he had to take some assassination missions to earn money. However, his mother still left him. Since then, he has been full of hatred for the world. He hunted evil spirits everywhere and sucked their power in order to become a powerful evil spirit to dominate the whole world after death. Now, Keiji possesses the rich man's daughter. The rich man has asked all the espers in the city before, but no one could solve the matter. In the end, Mob decides to become a spirit and goes inside the girl to fight with Keiji. Keiji sees the strength of Mob, planning to take him as his henchman. He unleashes his strong psychic power, causing Mob to get into a nightmarish illusion. In this illusion, Mob has no psychic power, and everyone is hostile to him. Mob can only endure the bullying because of his weakness. He wonders why those people treat him so badly when he doesn't bother them. Is weakness a sin in this world? Under the mental attack of Keiji, Mob gradually loses himself. He is about to explode with negative emotions and fight against those ordinary people. At the critical moment, Dimple comes to the illusion at the risk of his life, which finally awakens Mob's memory where even if he does not use his psychic power, people around him are all friendly to him. Mob finally realizes the truth that there is good and evil in human heart, instead of only seeing the evil side. What the world is like depends more on how to face the two extremes. When Mob comes to his senses, a great fight breaks out between Mob and Keiji. This time, instead of using his negative emotions, he activates his positive emotion to 100% and defeats Keiji with his just power. Finally, Keiji's spirit is saved in a bottle by Matsuo, one of the former cadres of the 7th Division. The cadres awakened after Arataka destroyed the 7th Division of the Claw. When Mob is growing up, Arataka meets his Waterloo. When expelling the spirit of the rich man's daughter, he offends the doyen of exorcism. Plus, as he is becoming more famous, he gets framed up. Arataka is invited to perform expelling spirits on a show. He thinks the teenager possessed by the evil spirit is just an actor, and he just needs to pretend to expel the spirit for a short while and the actor will act like the spirit is expelled. He will then become more famous. Little does he know that this is just a conspiracy of the doyen. When Arataka uses all kinds of methods but is still unable to expel the spirit, the teenager becomes normal. The doyen then says that the teenager is just an actor who is not possessed by an evil spirit at all. Thus, the lie that Arataka has no psychic power is completely exposed, and it is taken as a joke by everyone that he can't expel the spirit after performing a strange dance for 30 minutes. After that, Arataka's guests now all treat him as a liar, and he reaches the depth of despair in his life. He wants to hold a press conference to make up for his lies with his eloquence. Unfortunately, the reporter's questions get trickier and trickier. Just when Arataka can hardly handle the situation, all the equipment on the scene flies up in the air. Everyone in the press conference and the audience in front of the TV think it is caused by Arataka's psychic power, breaking those rumors that Arataka has no superpower. After the press conference, Arataka meets Mob, and he knows it was Mob who used his psychic power to help him out. He doesn't understand why Mob still did that after he knows his master is a fraud. Mob warmly replies, "I have known your real identity for a long time and you are a good man." Afterwards, Mob starts chasing after Tsubomi. The school is about to hold a marathon. Mob decides to confess his love to Tsubomi if he can be in the top 10 in the marathon, but it is so hard to achieve it as he was always the last 10 before. Luckily, Mob's companions all support him and they make special training for him. Tenga gives his new shoes to Mob, and Arataka also gives Mob a holiday, accompanying him during his training. Mob runs as hard as he can during the race, surprising everyone with his willpower. But miracles don't always happen. Mob faints due to physical exhaustion. When he wakes up again, the race is over. Meanwhile, Ritsu meets an unexpected guest at home, who turns out to be Sho, the one appearing in the 7th Division of the Claw. When Mob goes back home, he finds his house on fire. Despite everyone stopping, Mob rushes into his house, unexpectedly finding several corpses. As his parents' and brother's smiles and voices come into his mind, his anger keeps increasing and reaches its peak. Luckily, Dimple reminds Mob that the corpses may be fake. He asks Mob to think about the Claw. It may be their conspiracy. Under Dimple's persuasion, Mob calms down, detecting that there are 3 espers near the city. He immediately flies there, forcing them to tell whether they captured his parents and brother. Faced with Mob's strong power, 3 espers confess that their target is Mob, but they have nothing to do with the fire since they haven't got to Mob's house. After listening to Dimple's account of what happened at Mob's house, Arataka comforts Mob that he also thinks his family was not killed, which makes Mob feel relieved. But Mob is so exhausted that he faints again. Just then, Teruki catches an enemy who sneaked in. They press him and get the bad news that the boss of the Claw has returned to Japan with his 600 espers, and his goal is to completely conquer the world. Now they'll start with Japan. Meanwhile, let's take a look at the boss of the Claw, Toichiro. He is announcing that he has planned for 20 years and now he's gonna take action, forcing the mortals to know the existence of espers. At the same time, Sho and Ritsu show up in a secret cabin. It turns out that Sho went to rescue Mob's parents and Ritsu. They duped Mob's parents to travel in other cities, so they can be temporarily away from the disputes. Sho also gathers some espers, and Ritsu is one of them. Their purpose is to stop Toichiro from destroying the world. Soon, Toichiro starts his plan. There are 5 espers under Toichiro's command, nicknamed the Ultimate Five. He sends one of them, Ryo, to kidnap the president of Japan. During the process, Ryo meets Taruki. Though Ryo is blind, he has the ability to teleport and can predict the next movement of the enemy. Once he predicts the attack, it can't hurt him. Therefore, Taruki is no match for Ryo and soon gets defeated. Luckily, Taruki is soon rescued back to the base by his companions, but the Claw has started to conquer the world. If they succeed, those cadres who want to get rid of the 7th Division will be taken revenge on. Under Arataka's leadership, they start a counterattack. They send some of them to attract the attention of the Claw's members on the ground, while others enter the sewer to sneak into the Claw's base. Let's have a look at Sho's part. Under his leadership, Ritsu and other espers also come near the base of the Claw where they encounter Toshiki, one of the Ultimate Five, who can control the plants to trap the others and suck the nutrients from their body. Other espers stay and have a fight while Sho and Ritsu enter the base to stop Toichiro. Meanwhile, Arataka is taking care of Mob, who is still unconscious. Unexpectedly, the Claw sends Hiroshi, one of the Ultimate Five, to ambush them. Arataka tries to use the spray he stole from the Claw's cadres, but turns out to be ineffective to Hiroshi. What's worse, it awakens Hiroshi's stronger psychic power. Dimple can only temporarily possess Mob and leads away Hiroshi. Dimple is attacked by Hiroshi on the way and is knocked out of Mob's body. Luckily, Mob happens to be caught by Musashi, the president of the Body Improvement Club. To protect Mob, the members of the Body Improvement Club fight with Hiroshi. Hiroshi's psychic power is his muscles and terrifying strength. So the members, whose strength is also based on muscles, are totally no match for an esper like Hiroshi. At the critical moment, Dimple possesses Musashi, with the sincere desire to protect his companion. Musashi shows his potential, activating his 100% muscle strength. In the end, with his trained muscle, he defeats Hiroshi, who creates fake muscles with psychic power. Just when everyone is happy about the victory, Hiroshi stands up again. Luckily, Mob wakes up, killing Hiroshi with one shot. Meanwhile, Sho and Ritsu reach the Claw's headquarters, but get blocked by Ryo. Ritsu decides to stall the enemy and Sho sneaks into the base alone. As Sho finally confronts his father, he unleashes the power accumulated for 3 months, but gets easily blocked by his father. Then, Toichiro explains why he wants to conquer the world. It turns out that when Toichiro found himself an esper, he traveled around the world to find the esper that can fight against him. But as he could find no other espers as strong as him, he thought he absolutely deserves to rule the world. In order to let Sho give up, Toichiro unleashes his power accumulated for 20 years. Mob is also rushing to the headquarters, but happens to encounter Toshiki, who can control plants. At this time, Matsuo, who took away Keiji's evil spirit before, also joins the battle, but his evil spirit is no match for Toshiki. During the battle, Keiji is accidentally released, and he subdues Toshiki in an instant with his strong power. He wants to eliminate these evil espers, but is persuaded by Mob, the kind boy. In Mob's opinion, everyone can be changed. He does not want to solve problems by killing. Influenced by Mob, Keiji soon disappears. Ritsu and the other partners are in a hard fight against Ryo, a powerful enemy. Taruki concluded from his previous battle with Ryo that if there are enough people attacking together, Ryo will not be able to make accurate judgments. Under their joint attacks, Ryo is seriously injured. At this moment, he senses Mob is arriving with powerful energy. Getting a bit frightened, Arataka takes the chance to beat him hard. Though Ryo doesn't feel any psychic power from Arataka, he instantly surrenders because he mistakes Arataka as a hidden master. Meanwhile, Mob intends to fight against Sho and Toichiro alone. On his way upstairs, he meets Katsuya, one of the Ultimate Five, who has a similar experience with Mob. He has lost all his friends because he couldn't control his superpower and often hurt them during his childhood. When he was desperate, it was Toichiro who encouraged him and took him as a subordinate, so Katsuya is so respectful to Toichiro. However, Mob tells Katsuya that Toichiro will cause many problems if he destroys the city and hurts other people. Mob can see Katsuya doesn't want to hurt anyone, reminding him that he is exploited, which completely angers Katsuya, causing a fierce fight to break out. Katsuya says he only wants a friend, and Mob replies that he is willing to be Katsuya's friend. During the fight, Katsuya can feel Mob's emotions through his energy. He gets to know that Mob couldn't control the psychic power before, just like him, but he chose to be a kind man. They are the same. Finally, Katsuya is influenced by Mob and becomes friends with him. After dealing with Katsuya, Mob finally faces the ultimate boss, Toichiro. Mob transfers his psychic power to Sho, recovering his wounds. Seeing this, Toichiro feels so shocked that Mob has similar psychic power to him. Mob persuades Toichiro to give up conquering the world. In Toichiro's opinion, espers are superior to ordinary people. But for Mob, espers are just humans with specialties, and none of them are perfect. The world can exist only when humans complement each other. Toichiro feels so angry to get preached by a kid. When Mob tries to keep persuading, Toichiro starts a fierce attack. Just then, Arataka shows up out of nowhere to ambush Toichiro, but Toichiro dodges aside and counterattacks Arataka. Luckily, Katsuya helps block it. Toichiro's attack on Arataka completely angers Mob, making his anger reach 100%, so he decides to teach Toichiro a lesson before persuading him. Now it is the fight between the two strongest espers in the world. Mob gradually gets lost in the fight, as he is about to be out of control. His brother, Ritsu's shouting reminds him of the consequences caused by his losing control. He soon calms down and tries to persuade Toichiro again. In his opinion, Toichiro is a lonely person just like him, and he doesn't want to hurt Toichiro either. But now Toichiro is completely crazy, attacking Mob constantly. Just then, Mob's potential finally gets inspired. He warps Toichiro's body with his psychic power. As Toichiro activates 100% of his power, he becomes a strange muscular man, gradually losing control, and he will explode in seconds. Seeing this, Mob quickly informs his companions of leaving this place, but he goes back to Toichiro. Toichiro wants to kill himself, the source of the energy, to stop the great explosion, but Mob decides to stop Toichiro with his own power. Mob sympathizes with this lonely and poor man and decides to save him. Mob's words remind Toichiro of his wife, a kind-hearted person like Mob. Not until he is in a desperate situation does he realizes how precious this affection is, and his beloved wife has been by his side. Mob absorbs Toichiro's energy with all his effort. With a dazzling white light, a huge mushroom cloud appears in the sky. In the end, Mob survives, and the great battle comes to an end. Toichiro is arrested by government officers. Sho comforts his father that he will wait for his return with his mother. Afterwards, huge broccoli appears in the city, which is thought to be a miracle. Only Mob knows it comes from a bag of broccoli seeds that Arataka gave him. These seeds absorb all the Toichiro's energy through Mob and become huge broccoli. After the crisis, a new companion joins Arataka's office, who turns out to be Katsuya, a shy and introverted esper. Arataka helps Katsuya fix his messy hair. From now on, Mob is not only a good friend of Katsuya, but also his master. They will form a new team to face various strange spirits in this world. Soon, Mob has a problem. It's his last term of middle school, and the school asks each student to fill out a form of future plans, in which they need to write out what career they most want to do in the future. He finds that everyone around him has their own outlook on the future. Some want to go to their dream university, and some want to go to a game company. Even the worst student knows he will work for others in the future. Only Mob cannot imagine what he can do in the future. When Mob hears that his favorite girl, Tsubomi, will take the entrance exams to get into one of the top 3 high schools in the county, he is happy for her, but at the same time, he is annoyed that he cannot think of any future plans. However, he puts away his worries for a while. One day, there is a male guest in Arataka's office, who takes a strange decoration. He says since he bought it, he has always encountered bad things, and he guesses that there is a curse in this decoration, so he asks Arataka to lift the curse. Arataka doesn't take it seriously at first, but Mob reminds him to better put down the decoration, saying that there is really a curse in it. Knowing that the price of the decoration is as much as 80,000 yen, Arataka and his companions feel shocked. After the guest leaves, Arataka lies that he was just pretending not to find out the curse with an intention of testing Katsuya's observation ability, which makes Katsuya feel nervous. He thinks Arataka is an excellent esper, pretending to test Katsuya's ability. Arataka asks him to exorcise the spirits. As one of the ultimate 5, Katsuya easily removes the curse, but he accidentally breaks a piece of the decoration. He feels so anxious and intends to get a loan to pay for the loss of breaking the decoration. Just then, Arataka takes out a rice ball collected for so long and gets several rice grains from it. He then makes an exaggerated pose and sticks the fallen piece of the decoration with the rice grains. Katsuya, the naive man, thinks Arataka has strong power so that he can fix it, thus admiring him so much. When he returns home at night, Mob is still having trouble filling out the form. Dimple tells him to fill it out casually, because no one can predict the future. But Mob thinks he must take it seriously as it is related to his future. So next day, he goes to the Body Improvement Club, asking the club members what they want to do in the future. And he finds everyone has their own dreams. Even Tinga, who is silly all the time, has a dream of being a cartoonist. Mob becomes decadent and is in a daze at the rooftop. Just then, he meets Ichi, who is a member of the news club and is secretly secretly observing him. After seeing Mob's superpower, Ichi secretly forms a cult named Psycho Helmet Cult. She is determined to make Mob be the leader of the cult, even guessing that the huge broccoli in this city was caused by Mob. However, Mob doesn't want to be the leader, only wanting to live a normal life, and he is still worried about his future. Not long after, Arataka receives a commission. He takes Mob and Katsuya to a decadent middle-aged man's house, which is filled with garbage. The man claims himself to be influenced by evil spirits, so that he is unmotivated to his life. He also suspects it is those spirits which make him unable to get promoted and find a girlfriend, even causing him to be bald. But actually, his baldness is determined by genetic inheritance. The man also treats the garbage as treasures that can protect him, and he hopes Arataka can exorcise the evil spirits. Katsuya and Mob are attentively listening to him aside, while Arataka can't bear the stench and cockroaches. He then leaves with an excuse, asking Katsuya and Mob to serve the man temporarily. After Arataka leaves, the man constantly says some negative words that his life has been ruined and no one is willing to have contact with him. Plus, he has no friends and is good at nothing, so his life is totally hopeless. However, Katsuya also experienced such a predicament before, and Mob also gets negative because he is still unaware of what to do in the future. Both of them don't realize that with the man's negative words, there is an extremely horrible evil spirit above them, which keeps saying, "Your life is hopeless, so why do you work so hard? Just sleep and leave everything aside until tomorrow." These words are like incantations, causing the nearby residents to fall into an illusion. They then uncontrollably lie on the floor and start to sleep. Meanwhile, Arataka buys some cleaning tools from the store nearby, intending to clean the man's dirty house at first. When he comes out, he sees the huge evil spirit in the sky, and constantly hears its hypnotic incantations. Luckily, Arataka has a strong will. He temporarily repels its incantations attacks with the cleanser. After that, he immediately rushes toward the man's house. Seeing his two disciples still listening to the man, he asks them to look at the evil spirit in the sky. He lies that his power is destructive, and asks them to exorcise the evil spirit, but he doesn't realize that his two disciples also have supreme power. When they take action together, the garbage in the man's house, even the roof, are lifted off. With a dazzling light, the evil spirit is completely expelled, and the man's decadence is also wiped out. Later, Arataka feels so sorry for damaging the man's house, but the man says it's fine because he has already bought the insurance. As he is constantly showing his gratitude, the man seems to really find hope in his life. But when Arataka and his companions leave, he just picks up the manga he ordered and walks back to his room. Is the failure of his life really related to the evil spirit? At this moment, the two disciples are puzzled. Katsuya thinks of his life without friends, and Mob is still annoyed that he can't figure out his future path. Arataka reminds Katsuya not to be influenced by the guest, and his life is not yet half over, so he still has time to awaken. Though Arataka also feels puzzled, he still encourages Katsuya, saying that he can meet various guests in the office and he can learn many things afterwards. Later, Mob asks his teacher for advice. The teacher encourages him that he can think about it after he goes to high school, as he was also at that age when he came up with the idea of traveling alone. With the teacher's encouragement, Mob submits his form, but the column about what he wants to do in the future is still left blank. Mob finds Arataka, confessing that though he is happy in the office, he can't promise to stay here forever in the future. Arataka sighs, and he knows Mob is distressed about the form. He tells Mob that this office was also a sudden impulse of his. If he didn't meet Mob, he would give up, so what he wants to do doesn't have to be his job, just lives as he wants. Mob is greatly inspired and bows to Arataka, saying thanks to him. The school cultural fair is coming. On that day, there will be various activities and stalls set up by students. Mob is arranged with 3 students to make costumes for the haunted house. The 3 students don't want to take the bother, thinking they can just find a white sheet, but Mob thinks it is too perfunctory and he must take it seriously. Meanwhile, in Arataka's office, Katsuya tells Arataka that since he has stayed away from society for so long, he enrolls in a night school to prepare for his compulsory education again. At this moment, a strange guest comes, claiming himself to be a yokai hunter. He tracks the scent of yokai to this city from another city. Now he is hunting a yokai organization, whose goal is to get the great yokai king resurrected, and he can't let them make it. Arataka thinks he meets a fool and intends to drive him away. Unexpectedly, the yokai hunter takes 1 million yen as the consultation fee. Hearing this, Arataka immediately changes his attitude and echoes what the yokai hunter said, saying that he must wipe out the yokai organization for people even if he dies. Just then, Mob leaves school and comes to the office. Arataka immediately takes Mob and Katsuya to follow the yokai hunter to seek the yokai organization. Unexpectedly, the yokai hunter indeed finds a building where the yokai organization hides. On their way, the yokai hunter is so nervous. Though being a yokai hunter, he only fought with weak yokai one-on-one before, but this time he can feel there are a lot of powerful yokai in this building. However, Arataka and his 2 disciples look relaxed. Mob is still thinking about how to fix up the haunted house and make the costumes. Just then, a green yokai attacks the yokai hunter. The yokai hunter then takes out his priceless sword of expelling yokai, but it is broken after it just attacks the yokai for once. When the yokai hunter thinks they will die today, Katsuya directly cuts it in half with a card. After that, many yokai attack them from all sides. Arataka says he will weaken yokai with salts and then leave them to Katsuya and Mob. After saying this, he starts to splash salts. Mob exorcises the yokai with his abilities. At the same time, he is thinking it may be a good performance to use purified salt at the cultural fair. Katsuya also eliminates a group of yokai easily. The yokai hunter gets confused aside, wondering why they are so strong. After dealing with these yokai, the 4 generals of the yokai organization show up, making the yokai hunter anxious. He doesn't expect that the great yokai king has already been resurrected, but Katsuya and Mob are not anxious, easily defeating the 4 generals in the legend. The great yokai king says, "Not bad, humans, but it is impossible for you to defeat the great yokai king." After that, its body becomes over 10 times bigger than before, but soon after, it is easily defeated by Mob and Katsuya. The yokai hunter is completely conquered by the 2 in front of him, immediately inviting them to be yokai hunters and saying that they will get well paid. Before Arataka, who loves money, can agree. Katsuya says he needs to go to school at night, and Mob says he is busy dealing with the school cultural fair, directly refusing. Arataka quickly says the masters like them will not be tempted by money, but the yokai hunter misunderstands him, thinking that it is a humiliation for them to pay them the consulting fee. So he decides not to pay it and will get along with them as a friend in the future, to keep his reputation in front of his 2 disciples. Arataka can only bear to accept it. Just then, Arataka finds the great yokai king looks strange, and he may attract more guests by posting a photo of it on his website. However, it can't be seen on his phone. Seeing the great yokai king's head, Mob comes up with a good idea. Not long after, based on the great yokai king's appearance, Mob draws a design for the costumes by himself. The 3 students who team up with him still didn't want to join Mob at first, but under Mob's persistence, they still finish making the costumes together. At the school cultural fair afterwards, the haunted house made by Mob's class wins everyone's praise, which gives the students involved a sense of achievement, and Mob receives sincere praise from the 3 students. At this moment, we can see Ritsu is wearing a maid's outfit. It turns out that his class is running a maid cafe. That is so cute. After the school celebration, another event happens. The huge broccoli that grew in the middle of the city is considered by the people of the Psycho Helmet cult to be the divine tree made by their sect leader. With this divine tree, the number of people joining the Psycho Helmet cult increases, and the stronger the people's faith power is, the stronger the power of the divine tree will be. Now the branches and rhizomes of the divine tree spread to all corners of the city, insanely absorbing the city's nutrients. Just when people's faith power reaches its peak, a president of the Psycho Helmet cult actually appears. He looks just like Mob, and then shows his divine power at the scene, creating a huge broccoli on the spot, which shocks everyone and makes all the believers recognize his identity as the president. After the president shows up, the cult becomes more and more crazy, and they begin to give free candies to the residents of the city, which are said to be made from a part of the body of the divine tree and have the effect of toning the body and invigorating. Besides, they also have many products related to the divine tree, such as biscuits, drinks, and so on, all of which are made from the divine tree. Taruki accidentally eats one of the biscuits, and is immediately brainwashed, repeating that the divine tree is the best. Viva, the president of the cult. Since Taruki has superpowers and his body is better resistant than that of ordinary people, he soon regains consciousness and spits out the cookie from his mouth. He immediately realizes that these snacks made from the divine tree have a brainwashing effect. So he follows the clue to the center of the city where the divine tree is located, and he meets with the president of the cult here. The president keeps repeating that he is the god of this world, and that all humans should submit to him. He makes Taruki kneel again by just glancing at him, but the next moment, Taruki gets rid of brainwashing and regains consciousness again. At this moment, Taruki has already guessed that the president is the body of the divine tree, who intends to use the brainwashing to control the residents of the entire city, and he will never allow this to happen. A great battle then breaks out between the two, but the president, who has the power of faith of all people in this city, is still superior in strength, and Taruki is completely defeated. At the same time, Mob's master Arataka finds Mob. Arataka also discovers the strangeness of this divine tree, and he knows that this divine tree is left after the battle between Mob and Toichiro. This president of the Psycho Helmet cult is fake, and now the root of the divine tree has spread throughout the city and caused a lot of damage, which has affected his business a lot, so he asks Mob to destroy the divine tree. After they make a plan, Mob enlists his younger brother Ritsu to help. They don't know that the cult has brainwashed the inhabitants of the city by various means, and just when they are about to destroy the divine tree, an accident happens. Ritsu accidentally eats the free candy given by the cult and is brainwashed. He takes Mob and Arataka to the meeting held by the Psycho Helmet cult. Although Arataka flees with Mob in the contact with others just now, Arataka has been brainwashed by members of the cult through hypnosis. This makes Mob very angry. He can allow the members of the cult to find common hobbies and reap happiness in this cult, but he absolutely cannot tolerate the president deceiving everyone and using brainwashing to control people's minds. Even his companions are controlled. So he finds the divine tree, and strangely, the president seems to have guessed that Mob would come, and the members who guard here make way for him, allowing Mob to enter the interior of the divine tree. Mob finds Taruki, who is trapped inside the divine tree. Besides, he senses Dimples sent through his superpowers. It turns out that the person who controls the divine tree to create the body of the fake president is Mob's companion, Dimple. Dimple has always dreamed of becoming a god of the whole world. He used the power of the divine tree to make the body of the president, and after he controls the residents by manipulating their minds, the power of faith provided by the residents can strengthen his power again. Now Dimple has the power to fight against Mob. Dimple constantly persuades Mob to join the Psycho Helmet cult to share his rights. He feels that Mob is very powerful, and it would be a pity not to use his superpowers. At this moment, the entire city has joined the Psycho Helmet cult, including Mob's family and friends, who have found a full sense of happiness in the cult. In addition, Tsubomi, the girl who Mob has a crush on, has also joined the cult. If Mob can become the second president of the cult, he can fall in love with Tsubomi. Mob answers only 3 words to Dimple's persuasion. I reject it. In Mob's opinion, this happiness is false when people cannot choose the life they want according to their wishes. The act of Dimple manipulating people's minds is simply unforgivable. Mob is very angry, trying to defeat the fake body of the president with his superpower, but the power of the divine tree is too strong. Even though Mob breaks up a body, more and more bodies will show up, and the roots of the divine tree are still absorbing Mob's power. Seeing that Mob refuses to give in, Dimple activates his divine power to create a golden body and fights against Mob, whose power has been absorbed a lot, and now Mob is no match for Dimple at all. He is knocked to the ground again and again by Dimple. During the battle, Mob discovers that Dimple has been showing mercy to him, and he realizes that all this is not what Dimple really wants. What Dimple said about wanting to become a god in this world is not what he really wants to say. Enraged, Dimple smashes Mob's coat with a punch, and Mob's t-shirt with a monkey pattern is exposed. Dimple is stunned and immediately complains that Mob's clothes are ugly. Hearing this, Mob gets furious, and he reaches 100%, being bursting with great power in an instant. Dimple thinks he is going to die, but when the light dissipates, Dimple notices that Mob does not attack him. At this moment, the energy in Mob's body also disappears. Just when Dimple is confused, Mob says, I know that Dimple is the most trustworthy. It turns out that it was Taruki who recommended Mob to buy this t-shirt, and he said that Mob would definitely attract girls if he wears this t-shirt. When Ritsu and Arataka saw Mob wearing this t-shirt, they considered Mob's feelings and still did not say what they really thought, even if they felt it was ugly. It isn't until Dimple says this that Mob remembers the strange look of Ritsu and Arataka when they saw him wearing this t-shirt. Mob finds that only Dimple will say his true thoughts to him. Some time ago, Dimple tried to discuss things with Mob many times, but only to be ignored every time. At that time, Mob had been immersed in the trivialities of life and ignored Dimple's feelings. He sincerely apologizes to Dimple, knowing that Dimple's desire to control people's hearts and rule the world is not what he really wants. And in his mind, Dimple is a very good companion and will not do harm to others. What Mob said gets Dimple thinking. Dimple has been bent on becoming a god of this world since he became a ghost, and the fundamental cause is that he has not been recognized by others. But when he meets Mob, everything changes. Although Dimple has always been in ghost form, Mob does not discriminate against him and still regards him as his companion. This makes Dimple forget his desire to become a god for a while, and now he makes this extreme move because Mob always ignores him during this time. At this moment, Mob sincerely says to Dimple that in the future, he will definitely listen carefully to what he says, and will definitely not ignore his feelings. Hearing this, Dimple is completely moved, and now he finally figures out that he would rather be friends with Mob than become a god of this world. The two finally reconcile, and Dimple removes his control of the divine tree, promising to help Mob destroy the divine tree. In the battle just now, Mob gets exhausted, and Dimple decides to carry the weak Mob home first. Just then, Dimple finds something wrong. It turns out that when Dimple was controlling the tree to absorb the power of faith, the tree became self-conscious. The divine tree wants to make Mob stay so that it can absorb the energy in his body. To protect Mob, Dimple fights against the divine tree. Dimple uses all his strength to finally barely defeat the divine tree. After the battle, Dimple brainwashes Mob with the little mental power he has left to let him forget the memories of this time and walk home. Finally, Dimple leaves the city with the huge divine tree. As the divine tree disappears, the inhabitants of the city return to normal, but they also forget the memory of being brainwashed during this time. Late at night, Mob lies in bed in tears, and although he doesn't remember what happened, he keeps repeating, "Dimple, thank you." It's been a few months since Dimple left. Mob misses Dimple very much, but he can do nothing. One thing that distracts him is that Tsubomi, the girl he has always had a crush on, will move house and transfer to another school next week. Mob panics. He has planned to confess to Tsubomi before the end of the term, but now it seems too late. He must confess to Tsubomi before she moves house. Mob is afraid that he will be rejected by Tsubomi, and he asks his friends how to confess to girls, but they have no experience in love. They do not give good advice except to say that they will support Mob. Fortunately, Mob's master Arataka shares his opinion after hearing about what happened to Mob, and Arataka knows very well that those tricks of love are not suitable for the honest boy Mob. He tells Mob to remember that he must not play tricks, and if he wants to have a relationship with Tsubomi, he must impress her with his most sincere feelings. As long as Mob says what he thinks in his mind, that's enough. Encouraged by Arataka and many friends, Mob finally plucks up the courage to call Tsubomi, and they agree to meet the next day at the park, where he and Tsubomi used to play as children. Seeing Mob so nervous when he calls Tsubomi, I feel like I have returned to the youth of the school days, when love was simple and beautiful. Nervous, Mob ushers in a new day. He goes to the park with a carefully prepared bouquet to meet Tsubomi. Just then, an accident happens. When Mob is waiting for the traffic light, he finds a kid almost hit by a car. He tries his best to push the kid away, while he himself is hit by the car and falls unconscious. It seems to awaken the demon in Mob's heart, who has terrifying energies around his body, and he changes into another form. Buildings around the places he passes by are destroyed, which causes the residents of the whole city to get into a panic. Taruki feels this powerful energy and rushes to the source of the energy immediately, only to find that Mob's consciousness seems to be in chaos. No matter how he calls him, Mob does not answer, even attacking him with superpowers. Taruki soon realizes how serious the problem is. When he tries to awaken Mob, he finds Mob cares so much about the flowers in his hand. Taruki intends to destroy the flowers to awaken Mob's consciousness, but it instead angers him. Mob then launches frenzied attacks on Taruki, not caring about everything he has destroyed. They fight from the forest to the center of the city, and the surrounding buildings are severely damaged in the fighting, putting the surrounding residents in danger. When Taruki notices this, he immediately calls on the residents to leave the place quickly, and also uses his superpower to protect the residents who are about to be hit by rubble. Now Mob is so crazy that he again bursts out powerful energies. The people around him do not have time to flee away and are about to be harmed by this energy. Taruki used to look down on ordinary people because he has superpowers, and it was Mob who told him that ordinary people have no difference from psychics and that they should not be treated differently. Taruki carries faith in his heart against Mob's powerful energy. Mob is briefly awakened by Taruki and sheds tears of guilt. He cannot control his body, and now he only hopes that Taruki can fight back and defeat him. The next moment, Taruki bursts out with super powerful energy, but instead of attacking Mob, he uses this power to protect the residents buried in the ruins and the energy shield. Taruki knows that what is happening here is certainly not what Mob wants to see, and he does not want Mob to feel guilty when he regains consciousness about what he has caused. Eventually, Taruki falls to the ground due to exhaustion. Mob keeps moving, and his destination is the park he has agreed with Tsubomi. Due to the damage caused by Mob, the residents of the city have been placed in shelters by the local government. At this moment, a plane arrives over the city. The top government officials know that the damage is caused by a powerful psychic, so they send imprisoned psychic convicts. If they can successfully stop Mob, the convicts will be exempted from punishment. The psychic convict sent by the government this time is Toichiro, who was defeated by Mob at the end of the previous season. Toichiro tries his best to stop Mob, but Mob, who lifted the seal, is so powerful that Toichiro can't stop him no matter how he attacks. He admires Mob even more in his heart since Mob has always stopped himself from attacking ordinary people, though he has such a powerful power. Toichiro intends to use his body to absorb Mob's power, but at the critical moment, his son Sho appears to stop him. The immeasurable energy in Mob's body will cost Toichiro's life if he absorbs these energies with his own body. Toichiro thinks of himself and his wife and children, and influenced by Mob, he has become deeply aware of the importance of family. He eventually gives up and leaves here with Sho. Later, Ritsu shows up, which briefly stops Mob from moving forward. When they were children, Ritsu was bullied by others, and Mob, in order to save Ritsu, used his superpowers, but he didn't control the strength of his superpower well. And finally, he injured Ritsu as well. Since then, Mob has always blamed himself so much that he sealed his superpowers and vows never to use them on ordinary people. Ritsu originally had both fear and jealousy of his brother, and does not know that his brother is having a hard time until he also has superpowers. So he's going to use his power to redeem Mob. Ritsu's love for his brother awakens Ritsu to 100% of his potential, but at this moment, Mob's body has been controlled by his another personality, who is very dissatisfied with Mob because Mob has been suppressing himself, who has strong power, and he vows to defeat everyone who stops him. Just when Mob is about to launch a violent attack on Ritsu, his original consciousness briefly awakens, and the tragedy finally does not repeat itself. He creates a hurricane with his superpower and brings Ritsu to a safe place. In the end, Ritsu fails to stop Mob, who continues to move in the direction of the park. At this moment, the most important mentor in Mob's life appears, Arataka. Arataka is just an ordinary person, and he has no superpowers. Though injured, he has been trying to move forward under the hurricanes and energy that Mob has been releasing, and his only purpose is to tell his real thoughts to Mob. But it is simply impossible for ordinary people to face such a powerful psychic, and he still ends up falling to the ground. Just when Mob arrives at the gate of the park, an accident happens. Arataka unexpectedly shows up here, and stops Mob from moving forward with his own body. It turns out that not long ago, Dimple regained his power and rushed back. He possessed Arataka's body and gave him strong power. That's why he can arrive here and stop Mob. Arataka shouts out his real thoughts that he doesn't have superpowers, which makes Mob instantly calm down. Arataka confesses that he has been deceiving and using Mob, and he apologizes to Mob in tears. He tells Mob that everyone has two sides, but no matter the good side or the bad side, they are the truest selves, and he sometimes also hates his hidden side. However, it was precisely because of this hidden side that the two of them met. Mob doesn't have to hide himself, and just be the truest self in the future. What Arataka said makes Mob figure out a lot of things. In the past, he accidentally hurt his family because of his superpowers, so he has always been hiding this side, and the pressure has been increasing over time, which eventually leads to today's tragedy. At this moment, Mob decides to accept all of himself. He and his dark personality come to a reconciliation, and the two personalities shake hands in the world of consciousness. Finally, they complete the combination. After Mob calms down, he slowly walks towards the park, while Tsubomi is still waiting for him. After a while, Mob comes back, and Tsubomi rejects him. He can't help crying, and Arataka comforts him, saying that this is what love should be, and love won't work every time. Tsubomi has been waiting for Mob in the park, which is already very good. Later, the two leave here in the afterglow, and they will join forces with more psychics to restore the city. A few months later, the city has been restored and Mob returns to normal life. On this day, Mob and his friends gather in Arataka's office, and from the joke that Mob Sr. makes on him, we learn that although Tsubomi rejected Mob's confession, she has been talking with Mob a lot recently, and it seems that there will be a future for Mob and Tsubomi together. Not long after, more and more people come here. On Arataka's birthday, they gather together to celebrate it, and the story ends in such a happy vibe. This anime teaches us a lot of rules in life. After Mob knows that he has superpowers, he still puts his family and friends first, and always insists on not using superpowers on ordinary people. Influenced by Mob, the psychics around him slowly begin to follow this and no longer harm ordinary people with superpowers. Mob has finally had many friends with his sincerity, bravery, and kindness. I think this is the real superhero. If you enjoyed my recap, please give this video a like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'll bring you more interesting anime recaps. See you in my next video.